welcome to episode 1 of the Whisky series. My initial tastes of whiskey were enough to put me off of it altogether. I thought it was too strong for me, not at all worth drinking unless you added a little Coca-Cola to it. So for most of my 20s and early 30s, I had no interest in whiskey whatsoever. I went on my first trip to Scotland to take an Outlander tour, and as part of the tour, there was a stop at a distillery for a whiskey tasting. And being a grown woman, wanting to be a good sport, I decided, why not? I'll give it a shot. I'll try this whiskey. And it was the most delicious thing I had ever had. All I kept thinking was, where has this been all my life? And since then, I've been playing whiskey catch up. Whiskey isn't just about what's in the bottle. It's about what's outside the bottle. It's about where you are when you drink it, who you're drinking it with, if you're drinking it with anybody. It's about the memories that each sip can bring forth. Really, it's about where you are in life. Scotch whiskey is, for the most part, it's aged in casks that had held sherry, bourbon. I think some places have even used like wine, beer. It's effectively a seasoning, but it allows the Scotch to grab the essence of what was in there before. Now, this is different from most American whiskeys, which use new oak. So there's nothing that's been in that cask before the American whiskey is poured in. And again, there's different ingredients, but I think as someone who enjoys repurposing, enjoys old things, I suspect that that's a big reason why I enjoy Scotch whiskey, is the use of the previously used casks. So now there are 5 regions of whiskey in Scotland. There's Campbelltown, Highland, Lowland, Islay, of course, and Speyside. I wanted to begin in the Highlands because that's where I first fell in love with whiskey. The Highlands was where the magic happened for me, and that's where I wanted to start. So to that end, we are going to be starting. The first tasting will be the Macallan 12-year double cask.
Gather round, you whiskey drinkers, we will never be forlorn. We will always have the comfort of our friend John Barleycorn.
Oh my goodness. It's very smooth. It's smooth, it's light. It's kind of like I've had a good day type Scotch. Like some Scotch is like, I've had a crappy day and I need a Scotch. This is more of like, I've had a good day, or I have a reason to celebrate Scotch. Actually, I would say this is a good, like, welcome to fall Scotch. Certainly if you live where I live, everyone talks about pumpkin spice season, which I love. I'm a pumpkin spice person, but one of my favorite times in the fall is when I get to have my first Scotch. I actually don't really drink Scotch year round. I don't drink it in the summer. It gets really hot here, and Scotch, for me, it just doesn't seem to fit when we get really hot weather. So I actually love when we get to that first day in fall where the temperature has cooled just enough. And often, like, you can smell, like, people in the neighborhood have their fireplace going, and it just feels like fall for the first time. This is a great Scotch to mark that, to say, like, okay, welcome to fall. Let's start drinking Scotch. The Macallan, it actually takes me back to the Highlands. I talked about whiskey evoking memories, and I will say that the memory that this one evokes, it's very much the moment when I was in the Highlands on my Outlander tour, and there was this moment where it transitioned, it shifted from, my experience shifted from being on a tour about a TV show to really, it became about Scotland and about this real country with this amazing people, culture, music, food. Yes, food. I even like the haggis. Whiskey. Like it became real for me, where I wasn't just there as a fan of a show, but suddenly I was a fan of Scotland. And there was this moment where that shifted for me. And there was kind of an embarrassing side to this moment, and that I remember listening to our guide, Mac, as he was referencing places like, this is where this thing happened in history, or this is where that thing happened in history. And I realized that I didn't really know what he was talking about. I knew very little about Scottish history. And I mean, I'm an educated person, but I remember learning about English history in high school, and in college I studied Irish history. But I knew so little about Scottish history, and pretty much everything I knew actually came from Braveheart, of course. And then until I started watching Outlander, and then that's when I learned about Culloden, the battle at Culloden. And so yeah, everything changed for me after that. And one of the first things I did when I came home from my trip was that I bought a book about Scottish history. I bought some whiskey to start my whiskey journey. And I really tried to educate myself. And there's actually a third thing that I bought when I came home, which was a Jerry Rafferty album. And perhaps you know who that is. So here's the story behind it. So hang on, let me have a sip. I feel like before you start a story, you should have a little sip of whiskey. Okay, so throughout our tour, it was a 4-day tour, and we were listening to traditional Scottish music for the most part. It was playing on our little mini coach, the music with the bagpipes and the fiddles, and you're just kind of caught up in the moment. You're in the Highlands. Anyway, so heading back on our last hour of the last day of the tour, as we were just making our way back into Edinburgh, back into the city, and I was feeling already kind of sad that this was coming to an end, and it was a little bit rainy. Well, all of a sudden, the song Baker Street started blasting through the speakers on our mini coach. It shook me up a little bit, and it's a great song. I have fond memories of that song from my childhood. So anyway, I thought, well, this is a great song, but it's kind of random. Okay. Of course, nothing was random. Mac had everything planned out. So I was soon to learn that Baker Street is by Jerry Rafferty. Jerry Rafferty is a Scottish artist, also from Steeler's Wheel. This was all additional information, all adding to my History of Scotland book, to my tasting of Scotch, and now learning about more Scottish artists. So anyway, I feel like as we close out this first episode, it seems only appropriate to listen to a little Baker Street as we finish up this jam and close this out. So thank you for joining me on episode 1. 3 more episodes to go, so hope you'll join me on those as well.